Welcome to Kingscreek. Wait, can I do the welcome to Kingscreek? Hope. Let me do that. I'm gonna try it. You always do it.
If you want to try, go ahead.
Kingscreek. We hope you enjoy your stay. You see,
is that what you think I sound like?
You see, I think I could take over. I could take over as the announcer. You know.
Only if I get to take over as Damien. Then.
I mean, give me your best Damien right now. Do it.
Okay, guys. Hi, I'm Damien. I love Transformers too. Yeah, that's my favorite film. I love my uncle, but I don't like that Sarah girl. I mean, she's okay, but I mean, really. Sounds like he has a bit of New York in him, but don't worry, we'll beat.
Yeah, that'll come out in his plotline where he talks about his time in New York.
Yeah. He spent a couple years there, and like as a interstate exchange program.
Oh, that's incredible. Hey everyone, welcome to the Kingscreek post season 1 Q&A thing, extravaganza bonanza thing. I'm Thomas Dennis. I'm the head writer of the show. I play Damien Bachman. I edit all the episodes. I do some of the sound design. I do a lot of things. And I've got a guest with me here today.
Hi, hello, I'm James Makepeace, known in some circles as Kai After Kai. I am the producer, co-writer, composer of Kingscreek, as well as the scary British voice you hear at the beginning and end of episodes.
Yeah. You might be, like, for those of you who only listen to the podcast and don't listen to anything else, it's kind of weird hearing James do, like, a non-spooky voice, I'd imagine.
Yeah. Unusually candid tone, but don't worry, you'll get used to it.
Yeah. So what we did is that before this episode was recorded, we put out like a bunch of like the announcement for the what comes next, it's season 2 announcement thing. But we also put out like a post on a bunch of different things asking for questions that anyone could ask us about season 1, about like the production or whatever. And we got quite a few actually. So I thought that initially what I was going to do is I was just going to like take the list of like everything that we got and just read it out loud to you. But James, if you will, I'm sharing my screen over Discord right now. If you will join that little stream, you'll see what I've got.
Joke's on you, mate. I'm already in it.
Well, what can you tell us what for the audio listeners, which is everyone, what you're seeing?
I see a big wheel with a spin in the middle.
That's right. I figure what we could do is that we could just like, I would spin this wheel and we could take turns reading out the questions, and then for whoever the question is directed to, then they'll answer it.
Oh yeah, sure.
Okay, so we got our first couple. First one we'll jump off the bat. Hopefully it's a good one, because we don't want to like...
I hope it's a terrible one, Get them all out the way first.
That's true. Just let things siphon to the top, yeah. All right, this is a good one. Is Stephen Reynolds intended to be read as having OCD or obsessive compulsive disorder?
That feels like a you question. I will say though, speaking for myself, I guess you could kind of see episode 10 as possibly being like an allegory for that in the sense of like the symptoms of OCD being like cranked up to a very horrifying degree, which I guess in a sense is basically the principle of a lot of different forms of horror, which is just the cranking up of normal aspects of life to a absurd degree to such a point that they become scary.
Yeah, I wrote this episode, so when I was thinking about this story, I was thinking about like obsessive like behaviors. I didn't specifically have obsessive compulsive disorder, the disorder in mind when I was writing it. But I do know people who experience obsessive compulsive disorder, or they have, I should say, they have obsessive compulsive disorder and they experience obsessive compulsions. And the way that they've described it to me kind of inspired me to write this episode this way. I'm not the only reason I feel slightly uncomfortable saying a definitive yes is just because, it is a horror series and there's like it's like a supernatural thing that's happening, so I don't want to be like, saying it's the same thing, but like there is a definitive horror in your perception of things being affected, and the way that the world around you kind of changes, and the way that like your brain pattern will make you focus on certain things. I do not have obsessive compulsive disorder, and I don't think I like need to get diagnosed for that to say that. But I have experienced intrusive thoughts, and that was something that I was thinking a lot about with this. Was that just like the idea of a thought in your head that you just like no matter what you're doing, you can't stop thinking about it, and you like that like translates into you like affecting your day-to-day life, and something like in this case with Stephen Reynolds, having to obsessively keep everything clean. It does evoke some of the stereotypes of obsessive compulsive disorder, but also some of the like lived reality of it. So I'll say that's like a kind of.
I was just also going to say, on the topic of like intrusive thoughts, it reminds me, a few years ago, I wrote a short story about intrusive thoughts and my experience with it. Well, my experience, it was like through a character and stuff, but like, yeah, it was kind of processing that kind of experience. So I also have experience with that kind of thing.
Yeah. But I don't know if the person who asked this does have obsessive compulsive disorder, but if you do and you see yourself in Steven, I think that's really cool. And like, even if it's not an intended like allegory or anything, like I think that like being able to see those in our characters is really like one of the coolest part of fiction.
100%.
All right. What's the next one? Let's see. We're going to spin the wheel one more time. Well, not one more time, several more times.
One more time.
Ideally. Yeah, there's a lot of questions here.
Yeah.
All right, do you want to read this one?
Thomas, what was it like going from voice acting your own words to directing other actors in later episodes?
Well, that's a good question. I did not have a lot of experience directing before like last year. Last year, I directed a show for my college TV station, and that was my first experience like working with people who were reading something I was writing. And I think that the main thing is that it's a lot easier to organize when it's only you. That's like the main difference.
100%.
Because like if you're the only person in the episode and you need to record the episode, you can just be like, all right, well, when am I free? And I can just sit and take care of that. But with especially because all of our actors are not in the same physical space that I am, it's a bit more difficult to organize a specific time and place to record. And the other thing is also that when I'm reading, I'm kind of doing directing in my own head as I'm doing so, because I wrote the words, so I know like kind of how it's supposed to be read, or like I can make a decision of how it's supposed to be read in the moment that feels right. But there's a kind of slight disconnect when you're directing that you have to, that like part of like most of the work of directing is just making sure that you convey your intent to the actor. But the nice thing about that too is that sometimes you can convey your intent and your actor will surprise you with a new interpretation of what you've written or what you're directing, your material you've got, and you'll think to yourself, man, that's so much better than whatever I had planned, so we're just going to do that instead.
Yeah, there's a lot of fun that can happen whenever whenever an actor and a director just get in a room and start playing about with the text.
Yeah.
Obviously, my experience mostly through that is through theatre, because that's what I was trained in as an actor. And of my experience of voiceover, they're very different mediums, so you unfortunately don't get as much time and space to have that kind of exploratory phase, we'll call it. But I think it's always good to try and at least allow for that kind of space to happen.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, for 100%. All right. Were there any particularly difficult episodes to script or score? Do you want to go first with that one?
Yeah, sure. Let me think. Difficult episodes that were to score. I would say in general, the first half of the show was more difficult because it was due to a range of factors. I think it was partially because, one, this was like the first real time I'd ever been like scoring anything that wasn't my own like YouTube video or something like that. So there's a lot of growing pains, trial by fire, that you could say that I had to go through when it came to like figuring out just a good process of going through and just making sure everything was done. In terms of any episodes in particular, I remember episode 8 kind of struggling with towards the end, which is funny because it got off to a good start. The first track in that episode, which made it onto Select Sounds, A Strange Situationship. That is
a good track.
Like one of my it's one of my favorites from the score. But yeah, after that, I remember I'm not sure what it was, but I remember that one being a little difficult to kind of close out a little bit. Yeah, if I had to say that, yeah, I'm not 100% satisfied with how I closed out the episode. I would have liked to. I think maybe I would have liked to maybe play about with the motif established by A Strange Situationship towards the end. But I think towards the end, yeah, I was just kind of running out of steam a little bit on that one. I'm not sure. Maybe it was just down to bad timing or whatever on my part. I just happened to reach that episode around a low point for me. But yeah, in the end, I still like look back on it quite fondly, I guess. As with most of the episodes, it's a good learning experience. But yeah, I like I said though, I kind of lump the scoring of the show into those two phases. The first half where I'm really figuring out what it exactly is I need to do on the fly, and then the second half where I'm okay, I kind of have a bit more of a firm footing underneath me, at which point I can then start properly finding my stride. I think yeah, the second half of the show is when I really hit my stride.
Yeah, I think so too. There's a lot more. The first half is really good. There's a lot more like sense of like uniformity and identity. I remember you got the score out for part 2 a lot faster than you did part 1.
Yeah. I think part of that was because I was finally in a position to use a lot of the motifs that I had been establishing. Perhaps far too late into the first half, but I had indeed started to establish motifs by that point, and yeah, getting able to use those a lot more, I think was part of why I was able to get it done faster, but also why it was a lot more, I think, a lot of fun as well on my part as well.
Yeah, everything in the show, like from our perspective, everything feels like we do something too late. Because we were always like, why didn't we think of that earlier? Why didn't we do that earlier? And like you don't notice it at all in the show. At least I hope you don't notice it at all. But like, but it's like, because we're just like, it's basically just us like working on it. Like there's other actors and everything. It's us two plus Ryan Kennedy, who reads all the scripts and gives notes on everything. just bouncing off each other a bit, and so sometimes something that like clicks way too late, and you're like, oh, I should have been thinking about that from the very beginning. But I think we usually do a good job of like covering our tracks and making it seem like we thought of it all along.
Yeah, of course, all part of our grand plan.
We're geniuses. We got a big board that has every single detail plotted out for the whole show. Mm-hmm. As for whether or not there were like particularly difficult episodes in season 1 to script, I think that all of them have difficult parts and all of them have really easy parts. It's kind of hard because like sometimes I'll think that like a script is the worst thing I've ever made, and other times I'll be like, this took like 2 seconds and I'm so proud of it. I think if I had to pick, probably the hardest episode to write, I think was probably 10, was Contaminated, because I was like, because like the goal with that one is that I wanted to create a good Crimson Apothecary story that would end the like the first half of season 1 on. So I put a bit more pressure on myself for it to be good. And I think that pressure kind of psyched me out because I like just couldn't think of any good ideas for like a solid 2 weeks as I was just sitting like, what do I do with this one? So like the actual writing of it wasn't super difficult, but just I put myself in a really weird position where I was like, wasn't allowing myself to really be as creative as I should be. The other one I'd say was pretty difficult to write was Private Investigator, was number 16 with Sarah. But that's just because, you know, I really like Sarah as a character. And it's the same thing of like, I didn't want to mess up her introduction. Like I didn't want to be like, have her show up and it be like, everyone think like, oh, this character is like so lame or whatever.
Yeah.
But I think it ended up all right. People seem to like Sarah.
Yeah, I like Sarah.
Yeah. Big fan. Dharma, who plays Sarah, is great too, by the way. She's got some of her own like creative works that she works on that I would definitely recommend.
She was really fun to score too.
Yeah. All right, next one on the docket.
From pre-production to airing, what have been some of your favorite moments making the show? You want to go first?
Yeah. I think probably from pre-production, which would have been just I think like the day that I like pitched this show to James was like a huge highlight. And it's all just been downhill from there. No. But like, because
dreams are always worse in reality.
Yeah, and it turns out James is actually a nightmare to work with in real life.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But because Kingscreek is an idea that I have been like kind of like turning over in the back of my mind for a long time, but I never really settled on actually like what I wanted to do with it. It was just like a series of nebulous ideas until like October of last year. I sat down, I wrote down like a little pitch, like a little pitch for it. And then at that point, your album, Universe
is a God-shaped hole.
Yeah, that had like just come out, I think, or it had come out recently.
It dropped at the end of June of last year.
Yeah, so I just listened to it and I was like, wow, this is like some unique music that I really like the vibe of. And also I could totally picture myself reading a scary story to the tune of this music and it would work out great. So I thought to myself, well, this is a long shot. I'll just ask James or Kai, because at that point I only knew you as Kai after Kai. I'll just ask Kai if they're interested. And I was like, it probably won't be. It'll probably just be like, oh, this sounds kind of cool, but I'm kind of busy. But like the second I sent it to you, you were like, I am interested in this. Tell me more.
Yeah, it came at a good time because I was thinking around about that year. I was thinking how I wanted to really push myself as a musician, and one of the ways I wanted to do that was by doing music for a project that wasn't my own, so to speak. So yeah, like couldn't have come at a better time, to be honest.
Well, but like that like week after we first chatted about it, and like we just started talking about it more and more, and like the process of like bouncing back and forth. My favorite parts of making the show have always been like whenever like either I have an idea and I just bounce it off of you real quick and we just talk about it for a while, or you have something that you want to like think like this, like that exchange of ideas is always really great. As for specific moments, I also really liked recording. I liked recording all of the episodes with guests, but I really liked recording with Connor who plays Sal, because Connor is great. He's been my friend for a while, and he's also just a really good actor. So he was yeah.
I would agree on my end as well. A lot of my favorite moments are generally those like discussions we'll have every once in a while where we're just like going through ideas, planning out a season and stuff, figuring out where it is we're going, especially in the immediate aftermath of those discussions as well, because going away afterwards you feel like you have, especially like if we've like been working through some like real sticky points, like we're really not sure how to resolve this specific aspect of the story, we're not sure where this is going to go, but then figuring that out in the process and then leaving and going to work on it afterwards, it always feels good leaving with like a definitive goal in mind, knowing that you're working towards something. I would say the one that really comes to mind is the meeting we had where we locked down the order of season 1, act 2, figuring out how the season was going to end, how those final episodes in the Rain Dimension and the meeting with Sal was gonna wrap up, and then the thing with the aunt at the end, figuring out all that kind of stuff. That was a good one.
I love people's reactions to the final episode. Just like people, because I was worried that like, it's a huge cliffhanger, so I was worried people were going to be like, what the fuck? Why is it ending here like this? But people were just like, oh, that was so creepy and so cool. I love that. That was great. Also, like, isn't it kind of weird? The aunt sounds kind of weird. That like Damien's aunt kind of bothers me. That's kind of, there's something off about that. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, that was reading that script for the first time. It was definitely one of those moments where like I'm really interested to see it to actually hear it as it actually plays out, because it's one of those things where you can't really judge how it's going to play out until you hear it. So I was keeping my ear out for that, but hearing it in motion, so to speak, it was very satisfying.
And as for like production elements of the show, production stories, we can't talk about season 1 production without talking about the Sherlock Holmes thing. Do you want to tell this story? Because I feel like I'd be biased if I told it.
So it was one of those meetings that we were having where we were planning out season 1 and a little bit beyond and that kind of stuff, and at some point you mentioned, I think it was in the midst of a few other ideas, you were thinking, hey, wouldn't it be like crazy if just Sherlock Holmes was one of the characters? and I'm like okay, explain. And like I can't remember, was it that like it was a guy who thought he was Sherlock Holmes, or was it like some kind of collective psychosis experienced by everyone else in the room?
The idea was that we were going to be playing around with not imagination, but like collective thoughts and collective like stories kind of making something real. And I was going to be like, well, Sherlock Holmes is the most popular fictional character of all time, so what if he showed up? And also I was kind of interested into Sherlock Holmes at the time for a little bit.
You had a Sherlock Holmes special interest.
Yeah. Like I was reading all the books at that point. I was like, this guy's fucking awesome. And to be fair, he is awesome. He is a cool character. But rightfully, James kind of dialed me back from that. I was like, okay, calm down.
Yeah. I think that's the one time I've put on the producer cap and sternly gone, no, we can't do that.
Yes, one time you pulled out the veto, and you were absolutely right to do so. I don't know what I was thinking.
Hey, I mean, Sarah's in the show. That's basically Sherlock Holmes without the cocaine addiction. So
I mean, yeah. She's even got the initials SH, and she like quotes one of she quotes his simple.
It's from the sign of 4, I think.
Yeah, it's like the simplest. If you eliminate all impossibilities, this whatever remains, however
the simplest
improbable,
one, whatever remains, has to be true. Yeah,
yeah. It's like his own version of Occam's razor.
Sherlock Holmes in high school. I think it was the sign of 4 that one shows up in.
I can't remember specifically, but I do remember that quote and thinking like, man, he's so smart. All right, let's see what's next. All right, these questions are pretty fun, but we're going to take a short little break and hear a word from another show we think you'll really enjoy.
Under my bed, I keep a box. Inside the box are hidden things. Only I can ever know about my box of shame.
Ready or not, Ram?
My knot snaps.
Wrestling Ram. Do you think we are what we've done?
So you tried. Now you're done, right?
Are we our actions, or are we something else?
It doesn't matter. Nothing does.
Though I believe there are injustices,
I just wanted to help you.
You didn't.
we can resolve them through civic action.
The good Singapore, the clean Singapore, the Garden City. I am something they will remember.
So, you ready to go or not?
Andas Productions presents Cat Skull, an audio dramatization of the Singaporean neo-noir thriller by Mile Yan Tay. New episodes every Friday, wherever you get your podcasts.
All right, not really a question. Then I don't know why you're fucking asking it. So, but not really a question. Sal is often in alchemical texts a shortening for salt. Was this intended when he was named, or was it just a coincidence? I mean, you can.
Do you want to lie and say it was?
I'm a genius, and I totally intended that. But no, that is a really good connection. But I did not think of that at all. No, I just thought Sal was like a cool name because I like the name Salvatore. And I thought Sal would just be like a fun, like kind of friendly shortening of Salvatore, and I just chose that. There's a lot with Sal because Sal was one of the first ideas I came up with. So there's a lot with Sal that like kind of ended up on the cutting room floor. So there's a lot stuff that's like, you know, we only really have one episode with him, but I have like this whole storyline and life in my head of like who this guy was and everything he did. That we unfortunately probably won't ever get to see. So, you know, maybe part of that is that he was named after salt in alchemical texts.
I will say, this is only partially available, I guess, to the public. You'll see it when the full soundtrack comes out, but a lot of the titles for episodes that Sal shows up in were in fact influenced by these kinds of like, you know, alchemical terms and names and stuff. Like for instance, in episode 10, which is a Crimson Apothecaries episode, a lot of the music in there is named after like the four humours. There's one called Phlegm, Black Bile. That episode is one of the few to have a unique ending track, and it's called Collar.
Yeah.
And also in episode 19 as well, a lot of the other tracks in there are named after. Some of them are actually from alchemy. Materia Prima, Ouroboros, those kinds of stuff as well. So you know, Sal and being related to alchemy stuff. That kind of stuff did find its way into the production, I suppose. But not in that sense. But then again, just because something is unintentional doesn't mean it doesn't have meaning.
Yeah, I think it is kind of funny that we kind of baked in a lot of like alchemical and like Greek reference, like literary references into Sal, only for the answer for his powers to be like, yeah, he has a bag that gives him whatever he wants.
He has a magic bag.
Oh, this is a long one.
You have the power of the scroll. You read it.
Okay. I have a question to post. Do you have any specific influences to the story that you wanted to tell? This was suggested to me due to listening to the Magnus Archives. I'm assuming you're meaning the show. It was suggested to you. And I can definitely see things like it, the X-Files, the SCP Foundation, and the like being major influences. But one potential one that sticks out to me is Gravity Falls, not an organization, but instead a family, small town in the Pacific Northwest, mysterious older relative. The parallels seem clear to me, and I wonder if that one is intentional or incidental and what other things influenced it. Thanks. Let me tell you, you have read me like a book. Gravity Falls is absolutely a huge influence on this show. Like, it's Magnus Archives, Gravity Falls, and Twin Peaks are probably the three big influences.
Yeah.
I've seen people mention the X-Files a lot. I haven't actually watched the X-Files, so I can't honestly say that it's influenced me directly. Like, it's probably influenced things I have consumed that have influenced it. But the other big influence that people have talked about, like the influence of like Gravity Falls or whatnot with the show, but the other big influence for me, which I'm surprised not as many people have caught up on, is Stephen King's stuff. Like, particularly It. It is like a big influence for me. I read Stephen King's It when I was in high school when I was like 14. And it like changed my brain chemistry. I don't know if for the better or for worse, but it definitively like altered my taste in like fiction for a while. And that's partially why, there's a lot of references to Stephen King stuff in Kingscreek. I mean, like Damien Bachman. Bachman comes from the Bachman, Richard Bachman books.
Alias.
Yeah. And Kingscreek, there's that. But there's a lot of little references, but those are there's a lot of like little like influences and stuff, but those are the big ones.
I think the only Stephen King book that I've read is Carrie, which I believe I also read in high school. I have also seen a couple Stephen King's films, namely obviously The Shining is one. And earlier this year I also saw The Long Walk as well.
Yeah, which is a Bachman book, which is one of the Bachman, based off one of the Bachman books.
Yeah, one of his earlier ones. Yeah, bringing it back to Gravity Falls. When I was starting to like look into the inspirations of Kingscreek to like kind of get a bigger idea of a better idea of what exactly your headspace was when making it. Gravity Falls was the first that I started and the first one that I finished, and yeah, watching it, the influence on Kingscreek was obvious to me. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But it was really fun to see. Yeah.
Like Kingscreek definitely is like more dour than Gravity Falls. Like it's a lot darker in tone, but like it was my favorite show for a long time especially when I was really young. And it still has a whole special place in my heart as like, I think my favorite like cartoon. Like it's definitely like my favorite.
It's definitely up there for me now as well. I was thinking as I was watching it, it would have been great to, I didn't really watch this kind of stuff when I was younger, really. But I was thinking, it would have been great to see this as a kid, I mean, the mystery stuff would have been cool. All the different like, the theorizing and stuff, it was really funny as well. Wendy would have fucking destroyed me as a 13-year-old. God, Jesus. Maybe it's a good thing I didn't watch it then, now that I think about it.
It's probably... but yeah, like, I mean, also just the fact, like, for me specifically, a big influence as well, like, this isn't like a piece of media that influenced me. I grew up in the Pacific Northwest, so a lot of Kingscreek is like based directly on my own experience. Like Kingscreek, the town, is based off of the town where I grew up, which it's not in the exact same area, but everything, but a lot of like the stuff around the culture and kind of like the environment. I grew up in a house on the outskirts of my town where there was like a huge like forest right behind us, and there was a trail that led into it. And some of my earliest memories are going on walks through that forest, and it's just being really quiet. And everything, and like just letting the kind of the forest sit with me. That's the experience that's like that's never left my mind, and it's always in the back of my mind whenever I'm writing this. Ooh, this is a good one.
Which of the entities from the show do you each find the most personally scary? Ooh. Interesting.
I think that probably for me, episode 9, the like the brother-in-law monster is like the most one that freaks me out the most on like a conceptual level. Just like the idea of like you not being able to trust your own memory, and there's something like hiding directly under your nose, like that just like that like makes my palms sweaty just thinking about it.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. I'll say that's a good one as well. I think also episode 12 as well with Luna sticks out to me as well. The way that Clayton gets basically overridden and possessed with this kind of overtaken with this religious fervor. I think that final entry point that he makes where he talks about killing his family and stuff, I think that's genuinely some of the most frightening writing that you've done so far. So good work on that.
And I wrote that fourth episode of the show that I wrote.
yeah, you did. Yeah, you wanted that to be episode 4.
Can you imagine?
Throwing people in the deep end, yeah. I'll also give a little mention to episode 8 with Jason and his salamanders. I think it's not quite as like, you know, heady and existential a fright, but it taps into that kind of primal creepy crawlies kind of thing, you know, where like especially towards the end where the whole apartment is illuminated and it's revealed to be just covered head to toe in these swarms of salamanders, just imagining them all kind of squirming about all over each other, like it kind of makes the skin crawl a little bit.
I actually kind of wanted to address that episode a little bit because I think some people think that like I'm afraid of salamanders because I wrote that. I'm not afraid of salamanders, just to be clear. I think they're very cute. They're very cute little things. Little
guys.
You know, they're a little slimy. They go like, hi, they got huge eyes. They're adorable. But that specific story is based off of a memory I have where I was on one of those walks in the forest with my dad, I think. And we found, and he was getting like a tarp from, like he had like left a tarp out to cover like some wood, some firewood or something from the rain. And the tarp had been left out over a few days. And he lifted up the tarp, and I remember like very, very like viscerally, there was just like a huge colony of salamanders that had like found their way under the tarp. And the instant he lifted the tarp open, they all started like squirming and writhing all on top of each other. And that was what scared me. It wasn't like the salamanders individually. It's just the idea of like that image of them all like slipping and sliding all top of each other, like just like gives me the willies. Like I guess that could work with like worms or something, like any kind of slimy creature, but I wanted to tie it specifically to salamanders because there's a lot of horror stories about like worms, and I think, you know, salamanders could have like their time in this spotlight.
They deserve to get a little freaky, a little scary sometimes, you know.
Yeah. But I'm trying to think if there's any other ones that specifically freak me out more. The first guest episode, the one with the plants.
Oh, the plant people, yeah.
The plant people. That one freaks me out. Like partially because of the, you know, visceral vines growing into your like mouth like thing. Like that's not comfortable, but also just I've always been freaked out by like Invasion of the Body Snatchers type storylines.
Yeah.
Like Invasion of the Body Snatchers, the original one, and also the 1983 remake. Like those are both some of the like creepiest movies ever made. And there's also some vibe of that in like the new show Pluribus. There's some kind of Invasion of the Body Snatchers vibes. If you guys have seen Pluribus,
I think Vince Gilligan specifically cited that film as an inspiration. So yeah, you'd be on the money for that.
Yeah, I think that it's I kind of do want to come back to the plant people at some point in the future in Kingscreek. I'm not saying I will necessarily, but I would like to do that just because, you know, it's a creepy threat and it's not like it's been resolved. So, all right. Next question. Does the guy in the suit have a name you can give us? Don't think we can talk about that. Don't think we can talk about that one. I mean, what do you think? I
think good things come to those who wait.
I'll say yeah. I'll say that's for us to know and for you to find out, I think. He does have a name. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but he does have one. Is Gravity Falls an influence? No.
Well, I think we've established that it isn't, clearly.
No. Gravity Falls, never heard of that show, actually, but I don't think.
I think I watched it once a few years ago, but kind of dull.
Yeah, you know, it was just like there's like a mystery shack and like everything's like fake. I don't think that happens in real life. You know, gnomes, not real.
Where did the idea for the show originate, and how did it develop over time?
It's kind of hard to put a note, like a specific like point on where the idea came from. Like, I think it kind of just coalesced over a course of a few years as like this kind of like, I mean, I guess the idea for doing the show specifically came from the Magnus Archives, because I was listening to the Magnus Archives and I was thinking about technically what was actually being done. And I thought to myself, well, what they're doing here, this is a great show, what they're doing here, but effectively what they've got is that they've got a guy talking into a microphone about stuff that he's written. And occasionally there's like other actors and there's some like special effects that get added, like some, you know, audio effects. So if they're able to create something like this effective with just that, I could try my hand at that. I know how to do all those things. And so that's where the ideas for specifically doing the show as like an audio podcast came from. But like the idea for what Kingscreek is, I think, came from just like thinking about my hometown and thinking about stuff like Twin Peaks and Gravity Falls and you know, just a bunch of different like ideas I've had for like horror stories banging around in my head like for the last few years or so. They all just kind of come from there. But it didn't ever really crystallize into something specific until like last October, like I said, with writing the pitch that I was going to show to James.
Mm-hmm.
After that, it developed into the actual show point. So, does the name Kingscreek have any significance in the story, or is it just a Pacific Northwesty name? Well, like I said, in real life, like the Doyleist explanation is that it's named after Stephen King. I did find out, unfortunately, that there is actually a place called Kingscreek in Washington.
Yeah. I think I might have mentioned that at some point. Yeah. I looked into it and I was like,
There's even like another Kingscreek podcast. But it's
like a religious thing run by a church.
Yeah, I think so. Like, I think it's the church of the town Kingscreek, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, but I believe it's spelled Kings Creek as like two different words.
Yeah, so we take out the space, so it's completely different. As for whether or not it has any significance in the story, you know, that's another for us to know and you to find out thing.
I do like the name Kings, specifically as the name of the show. Take this as you will, but the first thing it makes me think of is, the show Riverdale, which I mean, any comparison to Riverdale is obviously dubious, but I like it in the sense that it kind of gives the setting itself a kind of character. You know, for it to be the name of the show, the place, it implies the place itself has some kind of importance, has some kind of weight, some kind of character to it, and I think that's definitely a thing that Kingscreek has, and it's definitely worthy of being the title it is, you know, in some ways a character in and of itself, Kingscreek. So I think it's definitely worthy of that title.
Yeah. Kingscreek as a town is definitely like a character in of itself, like how in a lot of movies where like New York is a character, like New York City is the character, or like in the show Gravity Falls is a character. In Twin Peaks, I would definitely consider like the town of Twin Peaks to be a character.
Yeah.
Just like, I just wanted to capture that idea of like this place being the focal point of everything, and that's why it gets the name.
100.
And
it gets top billing.
Although, you know, there was a point in time where this show, when we were banging around ideas for, you remember I was going to call this show the Bachman Show?
The Bachman Show. Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't that one of the ideas that Damien plays around with? Or
yeah,
like
that's kind
Bachman
of
joke?
it's kind of like I'm kind of making fun of myself with that one. And we're just like, oh, you know, Bachman Cast, that would be a good name.
The Bachman Files. Yeah.
Yeah. That was, I didn't do that one because I thought it'd sound too similar to the Magnus Archives.
Yeah.
Which, you know, probably shouldn't worry too much about being too similar to the Magnus Archives because, you know, it's kind of an obvious that that's a huge influence, so.
Yeah. All worked out in the end.
What was the most fun score to make?
Probably 19, I think. I have to go with that. I think it's probably my best work on the show so far. I really enjoyed doing it. I was very much inspired by Ethel Cain's work for that, especially her most recent work that she did last year, specifically the EP Perverts, as well as her most recent album, the both of which came out last year, which definitely lent into a lot of noise, a lot of dark, ambient kind of stuff. And yeah, I really enjoyed that. I kind of like drew on that kind of energy. That's an influence in general for me, but I drew on it specifically for this episode. And it was also really fun because I got to play about with a lot of different motifs that I've been establishing throughout the show. Most obviously, of course, Sal's theme, which I think is probably definitely the most fun motif I've written. It's one of my favorites for sure. Like it's a really strong motif, and and I'm glad that I was able to give it a good send off through the script, through all the different areas that like it weaves in and out as Sal's telling his story and at different points and stuff. Yeah, I think that one's an easy favorite for me.
That's interesting. I always thought that like that 12 was your favorite score. Like
12 was definitely a very anticipated one, definitely from the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah, obviously, you know, because you wrote the episode as episode 4. Part of the reason I asked you to delay it was because I really liked it and thought it deserved a bit more of a build up. But yeah, no, that's definitely another good one as well. Which I think you'll be able to tell when, you know, the soundtrack comes out, and you'll be able to see that episode has, by a decent margin, I think the single longest track in the entire series.
Yeah.
I suspect it's not going to be beat. Yeah, I suspect it's not going to be beaten, no matter how many we do. But yeah, no, that was definitely really fun, very cathartic to finally get out. But yeah, no, I think at the very end of it all, looking back on it, I think 19 is, yeah, no, I was just in the zone, I think, for that one. It was a good one to do, and it's the one that I look back on as probably, the strongest one out of all of them so far.
It's really good.
Though 12 is a good contender as well.
You know, the most fun score for me to make was probably the monster growling.
Yeah.
Or oh no, that's a different bit. I was just about to spoil a bit from season 2 because I forgot that it was not in season 1. Never mind. Uh-oh.
Maybe we should move on to the next question quick.
We gotta go. All right, we're having a lot of fun, but this episode is running a little bit long. So we're gonna split the Q&A into 2 parts. Part 2 will be releasing Wednesday, December 3rd at 12 a.m. PST. Hope you all have a great night.